As we wind down on the road to WrestleMania, I'm sorry, I forgot what I was saying. This is Raw Graded. Drew McIntyre arrives at the Thunderdome and says to anybody who wants to take Bobby Lashley up on his offer to take him out and replace him at WrestleMania, come and have a go if you think you're hard enough. Essentially promising a Scottish bottom kicking to anybody who tries it tonight. The Hurt Business head into the Thunderdome to get us started. Lashley reminds us of his very kind offer to whoever can beat up Iron Drew will join Lashley in the main event for a title match at WrestleMania. He then turns his attention, along with MVP, to Cedric Alexander and Shelton Benjamin, who dropped a clanger last week, losing to Drew McIntyre, consequently getting themselves banned from ringside at WrestleMania. They get chewed out by MVP and Lashley. Eventually, Shelton Benjamin has enough of this. He shoves MVP. This leads to Lashley bopping Cedric in the face and then beating down on Shelton Benjamin. Cedric thinks twice about going to save his teammate from a shoe-in and let Shelton just absorb it before getting tossed out of the ring unceremoniously. Lashley then announces that the Hurt Business is over. That's it, and it's all about Lashley and MVP and WrestleMania. Opening segment, I'm giving a C+ to. I thought, before we get into the consequences of this, Lashley's still a bit ropey on the mic with some prepared stuff, which was a bit weak here. And the big thing for me is, why split up the Hurt Business? Some of the best stuff on Monday Night Raw during the pandemic era was in and around what the Hurt Business were doing. It was a group that I think had so much more story to tell. And it just seems rushed to get rid of them at this point. There's certainly more we could have done here. Quite annoyed that they've thrown this away so early on, to be honest. But, otherwise it was a fine start to Raw. I just don't necessarily agree with binning off the Hurt Business. The binning off of the Hurt Business will be concluded later on because Shelton Benjamin has pleaded with Adam Pearce to give him a match against Lashley later on. Cedric wants one next week. He's going to pick at the bones. Riddle asks Titus next about his roast for WrestleMania, what food he's going to bring for it, to which Titus says, "No, I'm the co-host of WrestleMania." Oh, it's funny because he's stoned. Sheamus attacks Riddle. Their match is next, and if Sheamus wins, he goes to WrestleMania to face Riddle for the United States Championship. Riddle recovers from the attack and heads to the ring on his scooter. Apparently, his flip-flops now shoot multicolored doves. Yeah. Well, on a show with an undead burnt zombie, I can't complain about lack of realism, can I? I really can't. Hey, it's a strong start for Sheamus. He gets undone with a floating bro to the outside of the ring just before the break. We'd see Riddle landing a gorgeous overhead belly-to-belly suplex late into this match as well. He really starts pushing. He gets a near fall to Sheamus, though, with a white noise onto the apron, which is the hardest part of the ring. We all know that, don't we? Riddle manages to avoid a brogue kick, goes for a final flash, but ends up with a massive knee to the face from Sheamus. 1, 2, 3, just like that. Sheamus pins Riddle. He's got a title match at WrestleMania with a sort of a simplified new finish, maybe, with that big old knee, unless it was replicating Riddle's final flash, which I quite like as well. This is a B+. They have had some belters, have Sheamus and Riddle, so the bar is very, very high for what they can do. This was good. This wasn't their best one. I think they're saving that for WrestleMania myself. So we come to Shane McMahon's expose of Braun Strowman. Okay, so Shane's out there with Elias and Jaxson Ryker with some shocking discoveries about Braun Strowman. His report card where he got all D's and was described as a distraction and doesn't work well with others. In handwriting in which all the letters look exactly the same. It's as if the teacher wrote the handwriting font on this report card. We then get a picture of Braun in a dunce cap. Attention to detail in the sense that this picture of Braun in a dunce cap, the caricature is wearing a cardigan, and the cardigan's got the WrestleMania 15 logo emblazoned on it, so I guess because that's how old he was when he wore the dunce. This is so stupid. Out comes Braun, doesn't like being called stupid. There's a match up next with him and Jaxson Ryker. Ryker gets a little tiny bit in here, but this is pretty much all Strowman. The train sound effect is here to stay, by the way. He does the locomotive all around the ring with the woo-woos as he does so. He tells Shane he's going to do this at WrestleMania to him, running power slam 1, 2, 3. We see Shane McMahon try and get involved again, try and beat up Braun. Braun does that and they all run off. And then Braun reveals that Shane McMahon is going to face him at WrestleMania in a match stipulated by him. It's going to be a steel cage match. And Shane looks somewhat perturbed. Not terrified, just somewhat perturbed. It's an F. I hate this. I hate the Shane Strowman stuff. I hate it. It's dull. It's old. It's not even I'm not amused. It's childlike. It's crap. And I don't want this at WrestleMania. And I'm going to keep effing it until it effing goes away. It won't go away. F. Up next, it's the Dirt Sheet. Why do Miz and Morrison get 2 shows? Miz TV and the Dirt Sheet. They got 2. Greedy, that is. Miz addresses Bad Bunny attacking him last week, and he says there'll be payback at WrestleMania for embarrassing him. And then we get the world premiere of Miz and Morrison's new diss track, Hey Hey Hop Hop. It goes on for ages. I guess I meant to find this cringe and annoying. Like, I think is that the point? If so, yeah, I do. Do I find it cringe and annoying? Yeah. Am I going to pay to watch Miz get beaten up by Bad Bunny in particular because of this? No. I could talk about this, but you know what? Ross is going to do a much better job on WTF Moments later on. It's Miz and Morrison in bunny suits doing raps about bunnies for far too long, basically. Damien Priest and Bad Bunny come out after the song is pretty much finished. I kind of wish they'd interrupted it, to be honest. And Bad Bunny says that he's going to make Miz his female dog at WrestleMania. Miz sizes up Bad Bunny outside the ring, and Bad Bunny pops Miz in the face. Makes a lovely sound. Miz hits the deck. Bad Bunny and Damien Priest get in the ring, and Bad Bunny trashes the Dirt Sheet set to close out the segment. There you go. D-. I didn't feel this, to be honest. Like, the Miz and Morrison stuff. I know we're meant to find it cringy. I guess that's the point. I'm not a fan. It's just my opinion. I'm not a fan. I thought the best part was Bad Bunny's punch to the Miz. It made a lovely noise. Backstage, Randy Orton talks about some of the legends that he has faced over the years and says he's faced nothing like the Fiend before. He promises to sink into hell just enough to finish off the Fiend forever, and then we can all move on from it. Later on tonight, we'll hear from Alexa Bliss in Alexa's Playground as well. Bobby Lashley taking on Shelton Benjamin here. A bit of a faux pas by the announcer, who announced it as a handicap match. Unless Sedi is working in his smart clothes, it's not a handicap match, it's one-on-one. Shelton gets some licks in here. Like, it was nice to see Shelton maybe giving a little bit of fight to the WWE Champion, because it is Shelton Benjamin in the ring with the WWE Champion. We even see at one point Cedric Alexander trying to get amongst it, causes the distraction that allows Shelton to hit a pay dirt for a near fall. But this is all about the champ. Shelton runs at Bobby, only to eat 2 one-arm spine busters and the hurt lock for the tap-out win. And Bobby Lashley defeats his former friend, to draw a line under the Hurt Business. The match itself, I'm going to give it a C+. It was good. It was nice to see Shelton in there with the WWE Champion, but the Hurt Business ended far too soon. Far too soon. The segments continue tonight. It's a never-ending stream of segments and stuff. It's New Day Games Night. Now, before they did this, there was a nice bit behind the scenes backstage where you had the New Day inviting AJ and Omos to a Games Night. Xavier Woods has a flipboard that you play Pictionary with, and he's written things on the flipboard like, we miss Big E. He plugs Up, Down, Down, his YouTube channel. He plugs the New Day podcast. He plugs Support the Troops, which I thought was a nice little touch. In the ring, they've got a table set up with Jenga, karate fighters, and a few other bits and pieces. I'd like them to have played those, but instead we get New Day challenging AJ Styles and Omos to a game of charades, which they lose, and a game of Pictionary, which they lose as well. New Day, clean sweep for them in both games. To which Omos says, hey, it's not about these games, it's about WrestleMania. about becoming the champions. And AJ Styles says, yeah, I'm going to beat you at WrestleMania with Omos, and I'm going to beat you, Xavier Woods, right now. So the segment was designed, I guess, to suggest, to kind of get over the fact that, hey, you're not friends, really. AJ Styles is using you, Omos. He doesn't know you well enough. You can't work as a team. And this game of charades proves it. I think that's what they were doing. I think. AJ and Xavier Woods have themselves a decent little match. Woods gets quite a bit here on this one. There's a cute little spot where, just before the break, Xavier Woods baseball slides AJ, then gets back into the ring and does that sort of cute face with the legs kicking up to Omos. I thought that was quite a fun little bit. Loads of stuff for Woods here. Near fall off a tornado DDT. Tries to go up top, but Omos grabs his leg and throws him into the ring for the DQ. Omos then dumps Kofi Kingston over the barricade, and then in the ring gives Xavier Woods a tree slam. The match is thrown out, and AJ and Omos stand over the battered body of Xavier Woods to end this segment. It's a C+. I wasn't feeling the game night stuff. Again, I know they're trying to find different ways to get this stuff across. I wasn't feeling it. The Woods and Styles had a good match, good TV match between those two, and they should have some fun at WrestleMania, these four. So that's where it counts. Alexa Bliss on the playground here talks about the history of the Jack in the Box, or as it is now, the Fiend in a box. She promises Randy Orton that at WrestleMania, the Legend Killer dies. She then starts laughing while swinging on the swing. We pan out, and the Fiend, all burnt, is sat on the swing next to her. Unintentionally funny. Unintentionally funny. My favourite bit of the night here, Drew McIntyre is waiting to be attacked by somebody tonight, and he decides just to go and confront the locker room about it. Bursts in saying, who's going to step up? He approaches our new friend, we talked about him on the news video recently, the jacked up new Humberto Carrillo, hoists him across the locker room. He approaches Drew Gulak and says, hey, you've been tweeting me to get me to fight. What are you going to do about it? Silly Drew Gulak. As my good friend Jason knows, Twitter is for twits. Am I right? Am I right? Anyway, Drew does nothing. He ends up approaching Riddle as well, and Braun Strowman. They're not having it. Riddle says, I'm too full of fighting Sheamus. Angel Garza jumps Drew, gets thrown over the sofa here, and then there's Ricochet finally, and Drew goes up to Ricochet and says, you know what, I know you're looking for an opportunity, what are you going to do? And Ricochet says, I don't trust the word of Lashley, but if you're looking for a fight, I'm up for it. So Drew says, I'll see you later. We're getting Drew McIntyre versus Ricochet later from this bizarre segment. But the energy and the passion of Drew McIntyre in this, I was sold. This was just fun times. Shayna Baszler takes on Naomi next. Shayna has got Nia Jax and Reginald in her corner. Naomi's got Lana and Dandy are doing commentary. A bit of a whatever match. It just sort of happens with shenanigans around the ring. It ends up with Reginald trying to get involved, distracting Naomi. Then Lana gets involved. Dandy get amongst it. Nia Jax gets amongst it. They're all fighting here. At one point, Shayna kicks Lana off the apron. This leads to the roll-up from Naomi. Naomi pins Shayna Baszler. And that's the match. C-, serviceable, lots of nonsense all around it. Yeah. Riddle. Okay, this is the bit that you've seen. Gift, memed, shared, tweeted, everything. Riddle chatting to Asuka backstage, pulls up on his scooter and says, hey, Asuka, are scooters big in Japan? And she's like, yeah. To which Riddle just looks at the hard cam and says, sorry, I forgot what I was going to say. And then scoots off. Asuka's face is a picture here, just like stunned before she starts walking. Was that Riddle just forgetting it and throwing the whole segment out? Was that part of the segment? Is it funny because he's stoned? Who knows? Asuka's on her way to the ring for a contract signing for the match between her and Rhea Ripley now. And this one is... It didn't hit the sides. I'm so sorry. This is one of those weeks. Asuka and Ripley are having the signing. Asuka says Rhea Ripley is overconfident. Ripley says, I'm confident I'll beat you at WrestleMania. She signs the contract. Asuka signs the contract. Asuka starts talking smack, to which Ripley tips the table over her. As she does that, Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax come out and they're talking all this smack and they're saying, hey, how about you two face us next week on Raw, to which Ripley accepts on behalf of herself and the barely conscious Asuka. So next week, it's Rhea Ripley and Asuka facing the Women's Tag Team Champions. I hope you enjoyed the storyline with Sasha Banks and Bianca Belair on SmackDown, the match at WrestleMania, teaming together. Can they get along? Hope you enjoyed it, because you're getting a redux next week. It's a C, very basic stuff that led to basically WWE booking exactly what they were doing on SmackDown. Of all the things you book, just book the same thing again. Main event o'clock, it is Drew McIntyre taking on Ricochet. Real short match here with some great throws from Drew to get us started. Ricochet bouncing all over the ring for Drew McIntyre. Great bit by Ricochet where he gets thrown towards the steel steps. He manages to jump onto them, onto the barricade, and hit a running missile dropkick onto Drew McIntyre. Best bit of the night for Ricochet here. He goes up after this for the 630. Drew rolls out of the way, hits a Claymore for the 1-2-3. The moment that he gets the 3 count, Mustafa Ali hits the ring and tries to attack Drew McIntyre, to which Drew hoists him out of the ring and says, if you want to fight, come on then, let's have a fight right now. So they do. We come back and it's Drew versus Ali here. Ali focusing on the injured leg of Drew McIntyre, just wearing down on that leg throughout the match here. But Drew able to push through it and persevere. Ali goes for a springboard cutter, which Drew counters. It's weird because it looks like he counters by just standing there. It's only when you watch it back you go, oh, it was a Glasgow kiss, if you weren't paying attention to the commentary. It was a Glasgow kiss on the way down. To which then Drew hits the Claymore, 1-2-3. He grabs the microphone then and says, hey, Bobby, come out here, stop sending people to do your dirty work. Lashley comes out, they have themselves a little heated discussion that ends with Drew insinuating that Lashley is scared of him. This angers Lashley, who just starts fighting with Drew. This leads to Drew starting to get one up on Lashley, gets him out of the ring. But who's this to attack Drew McIntyre? It's King Corbin from SmackDown. Corbin and Lashley put a beating on Drew McIntyre, with Lashley putting him in the hurt lock. Looks as if a friendship has been rekindled between Bobby Lashley and King Corbin. So, main event stuff, I'm actually going to give a B- to, right? Enjoyed the 2 short matches, one from Ricochet and one from Mustafa Ali. Ali in the main event of Raw. Get in there, lad. Corbin being the guy to capitalise on Lashley's offer. Okay, storyline-wise, it actually makes sense, because these 3 were running buddies. They were kind of like the alliance to end the Shield back in the day. So it makes sense. Do I want this instead of the Hurt Business? No, I'd rather have the Hurt Business. I get it from a logical point of view. I do. But am I really nervous that Drew McIntyre might not make it to WrestleMania because of Baron Corbin? No. No. There is no jeopardy there. There is no jeopardy there. Sorry. Overall this week, I'm going to give Raw a D. I thought this was a pretty disappointing episode of Raw on the whole. I thought there was a lot of segments that for me didn't really land. I think the highlight was probably the 2 very short matches we had at the very top of the show, and the match between Riddle and Sheamus. Everything else, I think, a lot of it didn't work. Like, it just felt like a lot of half-baked ideas. My opinion only. It's probably one of the more weaker runs to WrestleMania we've had. But there's still a week left. There's still the go-home episode of Raw. As the optimist of Cultaholic, I have to retain that optimism that we're going to get something at the very end of this. So fingers crossed. Next week, we have a banging episode of Monday Night Raw ahead of WrestleMania. I'm believing it. Can't wait to see what Ross made of this week. He'll be on WTF Moments later on. Stay safe. Love you, bye.